Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's see what happens.
Poco.
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué? Tú preguntas por qué.
Ok. Yo vine porque yo quiero que arreglemos las cosas. Te voy a explicar. Clara.
Okay, so we're seeing that they're having a makeup conversation, and it's starting out well. He is approaching her. He's making effort. He has a flower, and she's receptive to it. So let's see how this goes.
Que tú te pongas en mi lugar y que entiendas. Yo conocí esa chica. Ella quedó embarazada. De mi parte, yo pensé que ella lo hubiera perdido natural. Eso fue lo que ella me dijo.
Okay, so he could have said all that earlier. That could have helped her. Now, it could be argued that she was making it really difficult on him to open up, but he could have led with that at the very, very beginning. And I'm guessing that his attitude in the beginning was a passive aggression, that he has some history with her or doesn't like to be interrogated or something, and so he overreacted by acting more flippant. He's certainly not being flippant now.
Unos meses después, yo me enteré por parte de otra persona que ella quiso sacarlo. Yo te dije, ella lo perdió porque yo, en realidad, yo sí quería ese bebé.
Okay, so there's a lot more detail there that I'm guessing would have helped. Now, I don't know, maybe Danielle will be upset, but I'm guessing hearing the backstory, seeing that he's trying to put effort into it, might help. And the specific details might help too, that he seems like he genuinely cared. He wasn't flippant about this particular relationship.
Me siento cómodo recordando, hablando de eso, porque fue un momento.
This would have been great if you would have said this at some point. Now, after a certain threshold is crossed, it's hard for people to go here because they don't feel like they're in a safe place. But he could have led with this in the very beginning. He could have immediately said, yeah, I didn't tell you about the abortion because, I really wanted that child. It's a very unpleasant memory for me. And she originally said it was a miscarriage, but then later I found out it was an abortion. And I don't know, it's painful. And maybe what he's saying is it's easier for me to think of it as a miscarriage because it's just an act of nature or God or something. Whereas for her to have purposely aborted the child, it hurts my feelings because I wanted that child. I wanted to be with that child. Maybe even I wanted to be with that woman or something. And so it's unpleasant to me. It's sad to me. It's hurtful. It's a painful thing.
Muy desagradable.
So, first of all, thank you. Gracias por decir todo porque es importante. A mí, yo entiendo tu vida.
Great. So she's starting with a thank you, with acknowledging what it's happening. People often will skip this step. They'll just launch into the interrogation or the criticism or something. You should have told me that yesterday, instead of just acknowledging thank you. That was nice. And why thank you. I'm not thanking you because you're supposed to tell me every detail because I'm your mom. I just want to know about your life, which she's saying that.
Yo no sé ti. Tengo un marriage, we are married, pero no tengo mucho tiempo contigo. So, cuando tenemos problemas, es importante a mí, los dos hablamos. Yo sé es difícil hablar de este.
Now, I would hope that she would apologize or at least talk a little bit about the way she was talking to him yesterday and in other conversations.
Cosa en tu pasado, yo sé. Pero tú estás defensivo y estás enojado conmigo porque yo pregunto.
Sí, lo sé. Y te pido disculpas por eso. Estuvo mal.
That's good. Takes a lot to be able to say that. I don't know if he's just saying that. There's not a lot of heart behind what he's saying now. I think there was earlier in terms of what I'm detecting. So he might just be going through the motions. He could help by laying into it, by leaning in a little bit more. But he's doing great. I mean, in terms of what I imagine is the issue from his side, what he could change to make the relationship better, he's doing a lot of leaning in, a lot of disclosure.
Yo sé que tengo que ser más claro y así nos vamos a entender mejor.
We've made a lot of progress today, but Yohan still clearly has a long way to go when it comes to having a mature adult relationship.
So bad. Yikes. I won't repeat it. I've already said it. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We often talk about a work-life balance, right? But how often do we talk about a balance between time for others and time for ourselves? It's so easy to get caught up in thinking about what everyone else wants from us and never taking the time for ourselves. And of course, therapy can help you with that balance. I mean, just going to therapy is taking time for yourself, right? I've had many clients who will do this. They will come into my office, sit down on my couch, and let out a big sigh of relief because I think for the first time in a week, they're actually taking time to think about what they need. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's worth giving a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and suited to your schedule. And also, you can switch therapists at any time at no additional charge. So, find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
¿Quieres sentarte conmigo un rato?
But once I move down here and we start building a life together, that's when we'll really know how much trust we have for one another and whether or not we're building a life on a solid foundation.
And I will say that I've worked with people that present like her. I don't know her, but I have worked with people who present like her, and I will tell you that those individuals were very difficult to work with. It's difficult to work with people who are so sure of themselves and they have such a strong adherence to their point of view. Because in therapy, a good portion of the change that occurs is challenging your point of view. Not me telling clients how to think, but to raise question marks and just be like, well, maybe I'm not always rational. Maybe I am triggered. Maybe my perspective isn't always the only perspective. Maybe there's another perspective here. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. It's very important that people have that ability, that flexibility, and that question mark in their mind. It's hard, but for people who talk like her, it can be very frustrating because a lot of the action of therapy is talking about it. I say, well, that's how you're seeing it. Or is it possible that there's another way of seeing it? And, there's a lot of different angles to this. There's a lot of different techniques, a lot of different models of therapy. But it's a pretty frequent mode, pretty frequent place that therapy resides in. And if the individual is just adamant that not only they're right, but also that they're superior to everybody, that they know things, it doesn't lend itself to therapy working very much. It can help. I've worked with many people who present like her, and over time, absolutely seen people change. People want to be healthy. They want to be in a place. This is the humanistic therapy idea that people don't need to be forced into health. They want to go to health. You just have to help them get there. You have to remove the barriers. You have to make it inviting. And so it's true. The optimal life will always attract people along the way. And so if you lay that out for her, maybe she would be able to see that she wouldn't have to, essentially the idea is like slowly but surely you would in therapy help her to see that by raising a question mark about her own perspective and also evaluating her own superior self-assured way of thinking, by allowing for there to be a question mark there, then she'll be happier, her relationship will be better, her attachments will be better, her needs, because it's all born out of a defense. The things that we're seeing, the superiority and the self-assuredness, these are defenses against, I don't know about her, but the people I've treated, these are defenses against notions that were very much true when they were younger, that they don't matter, that no one cares about them, that they're stupid, irrelevant. And so the defense against that is, because there's a part of them that suspects that that's not exactly true, that they're not 100% worthless. So they will say, no, I'm not. I'm 100% worthwhile and everyone else is worthless. And I'm not stupid and irrelevant. I'm a genius and I'm superior and I'm more relevant than other people. That's the defense, right? The black and white. And then any kind of notion that says maybe you're not superior, maybe you're not all-knowing, they will interpret it, black and white, as like, oh, you're telling me the way I was being treated when I was young, you're telling me that I'm worthless. And it's like, no. And having that ability to add that third option, just because I'm criticizing or just because I'm raising this idea that maybe your perspective isn't perfect, does not mean that you're worthless, does not mean that I'm saying you're worthless. It just means that we all have this problem, right? And it's really hard for people to make that paradigm shift. It's a huge it's like learning a new language fluently, because for people with these defenses, typically they've never been in that place. Their entire life, they've never been in an emotional, cognitive, personality zone that allows for the possibility that their superior self-assured notions are not perfect. They've never been there before. It's a completely different way of thinking and very challenging, very unknown. There's a lot of unknowns and, again, a lot of defenses that keep that propped up. So, I'm just reminded of, she just seems very self-assured, very much, this notion that she's always, in my view, the fight that they had on the previous day was mostly because of her. Now, we could absolutely identify his transgression, and it sounds like he's agreeing it's a transgression. But often, it's just so often with these couples that we're watching on the show, the Liz's and the Eds, and there's that person who just will never own up to it. They'll never apologize, while the other person is always the one coming to the table. The way that they showed Darcy and Georgie, for example. We don't know what was happening after this last season. It's like God knows. But the way it looked was that Georgie was not committing at least extreme transgressions, and Darcy was often committing transgressions, and Georgie was always the one apologizing, and Darcy was always the one not apologizing. There was that brief moment where she apologized, kind of, that one day. I think it was after the Michael, beach incident. When we first meet Michael. Anyway, so it just has that feel to it. Like, great, he apologized. That makes sense. But is she not going to say, I'm sorry for calling you stupid? She didn't call him stupid, but she implied, I'm sorry for calling you a child. I'm sorry for calling you immature. I'm sorry for yelling at you. I'm sorry for calling you a liar, yelling that at you. Like, I'm sorry for saying you need to be a different person. There's just a lot of things that she should be recognizing and apologizing for. And I'm also worried about him because he's not bringing that up. He's not saying like, hey, okay, so this is good, but I think you need to apologize for some things. I think they have an agreement or something, or I don't know.
Tú no me obedeces. En la relación, déjame tomar lo que yo tengo que hacer, lo que el hombre tiene que hacer en la relación. Yo tengo un pene, sí.
Okay. I don't know if it's a phrase that maybe people use in his region, but to catch you up, she went back to New York to get her stuff and to clear some things up. I think she had to continue to work, and then she came back, and now she's here to stay in Dominican Republic, and he didn't know that she was going to have 10 pieces of luggage, and so they had to tie it to the roof, and she wanted to drive, and she was saying that she's a better driver and he's a terrible driver because he got in an accident recently, and he was saying, no, I'm going to drive, you're not going to drive, this is my car, or whatever. And then they eventually said he was going to drive. And then now he's saying, you need to obey me because I'm the man. I'm wondering if in the interim, while she was gone, he talked with a lot of people and maybe thought to himself about what needs to change. And as often on this show, when you're being dominated and bulldozed, often the response is, I'm going to be the one to dominate and bulldoze. That's the only way to deal with this. I have to establish control rather than trying to work together so that neither individual is bulldozing or dominating the other person. I don't know. But he seems to be coming out early and saying, look, here are the rules, I'm the man, and I have a penis. I think that's, I don't know if that's a saying and it just lost in translation, but he is emphasizing that. Now, maybe it isn't a saying in his culture, and he's literally just reducing toxic, dominant masculinity to, that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It's certainly not the first time that's happened.
Sí, yo soy el del pene, pues yo soy el hombre.
Yeah, when he words it that way, it sounds like he's saying God or nature gave me this thing, and thus, by decree, I have the natural right to dominate, and you must obey me because you don't have one of those. It sounds like what he's saying. Yeah. I'm just going to take a guess and say that she's not going to be a fan.
I don't think having a penis impacts your ability to do things. If anything, it prevents you from being able to do things with any kind of intelligence or logic.
My God. Yeah. I mean, I don't have to even say anything in response to that. It doesn't justify a response.
Because the penis is a thinking tool, but not necessarily an effective one. Porque tú piensas, porque...
And I know people will say that sometimes, and I don't know if she's just joking. It certainly would be within her personality and her behavior that she would have that attitude as well, that would make her superior and give her the right to make him obey and to talk down to him. But I know people would make jokes about, man thinking with his organ, if you will. People of all gender can say such things, might lament past behavior in which they thought with their genitals. It's not just a particular, organ that will cause people to do things that they regret later. That's it, right?
Tú estás un hombre, tú tienes más experiencia con una
Yo no
cosa.
pienso nada de eso.
¿En
Sino
qué-
que tú tienes que entender cuando yo te digo una cosa.
¿Por
Yo te
qué
digo
es?
eso, no me contradiga.
Okay.
Yeah, he is just coming out of the gate. I think he got all riled up because of what happened when she came down last time. I understand why he's upset. It certainly didn't go well for him. And he's trying to, solve the problem by just laying down the law. Or he's trying to push her away. I don't know. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.